progress in computing capability has led us to both of these. The radical change now in the underlying hardware, where parallelism is the only way to get more performance, forces the concurrency problem in one dimension to come forward. But trying to write distributed applications across the web, for example, is also a concurrent distributed programming problem. And we don't have really good tools for that either. And so I think whether it's sort of the mega scale or the local or micro scale, this challenge is upon us. But all of the tools that we've had to write programs, have allowed us to cast bigger and bigger programs just because capacities increase. But with that comes an exponential growth in complexity, and the tools don't allow us to use the machines to reason about the correctness of the programs themselves. And as a result, it's, we have, I think, a troubling time ahead, because the society now expects computing to be perfect, continuously available, like infrastructure, like electricity and running water. And they will be increasingly less tolerant of failures. They're going to demand more trust associated with the systems that they use. And yet we really haven't made the big leap in either programming methods or even the training of our students and our people to be prepared to focus on these questions. I mean, most kids come today, they go to the computer science or CSE department, and they get trained in programming. But they don't get trained in high-quality production programming. They don't get trained in threat modeling, for example. They don't get trained in privacy principles. Those are all left for the psychology department or something else. And the reality is, in a multidisciplinary sense, even the computing world has to come together with these other disciplines to understand how we're going to address these problems. And I think both the concurrency and complexity problem will require some fairly big dislocations in the way that people are trained and ultimately the way that they use these new machines.
So what recommendations would you give to students of today that are approaching this and saying, okay, I'm not getting the right training I need, what can I do on my own to be ready for this new model we'll be programming for?
Well, there's two products that Microsoft has actually put forward, which you can get off the web now for students. One of them especially is free for student use, that I think are really interesting proxies for the kind of tools we're going to have in the future. One of these is the Microsoft Robotics Studio.
Sure.
And it's a really interesting toolkit. It has a highly concurrent runtime architecture. It has a visual programming environment which raises the abstraction level for building and integrating complex systems. It's built fundamentally around lock-free programming concepts. It allows you to compose very complex systems, and it even has a 3D modeling capability, including a physics simulator, so that you can get the program and test it even in an environment where you don't have access to the physical robot. I think this is going to find broad applicability, and it's one of the tools I really recommend to people to go look at. Another one is F#. It's a new programming language, came out of Microsoft Research in Cambridge in the UK, and it's very interesting because it brings many of the declarative functional programming concepts in a contemporary language, but interestingly one that integrates with the traditional .NET programming language suite. And that means you don't face the all or nothing proposition. You can take some modules of an existing application, you could recast them in this F# environment, and then you can take the composite of these things, perhaps wrap them up, and then think about how to integrate them together using the Robotics Studio environment. And so I think just those two things are great do-it-yourself training exercises for kids who want to move beyond what they might get in the classroom, but want to anticipate what is likely to be the big problems ahead in the time that they'll have to work.
So Bill officially stepped down July of 2008. You and Ray are now at the helm of the company. You're looking more future-oriented strategy than Ray is, right? Can you give us a hint on the kinds of things you're thinking about these days?
Well, I mean, both of us, I think, try to anticipate the future.
Sure.
Ray is focused a little bit more on the near-term coordination, and his approach is, I call it from the cloud down. Mine is trying to focus on a little longer time horizon, particularly with the pure research function, and that's sort of more in the 3 to 20 year time horizon. And I focus sort of from physics up, and we meet in the middle. And so many of these platform changes require that we integrate across disciplines more than just the programming that Microsoft does itself. And a lot of that contemplates these changes in the semiconductor processes, in the architecture of the machines, and then ultimately, even like the condensed matter physics questions that underlie the pursuit of quantum computation. So you really get pretty far out in some of these areas. But between us, we try to deal with both the long and the short, and sort of the up and the down of the stack, and I think we're pretty optimistic.
Cool. Well, thank you very much, Craig. Appreciate your time.
Great to be here on Channel 8. Thanks a lot.